This should seem surprising to you. It's not surprising to me. Even though we've only followed live UA map, we've seen day after day. Not just lefties. You shouldn't say it's just lefties. Like, a lot of people fell for it. Like, the army's marching and stuff. It's literally the same as like Nazi propaganda or Soviet propaganda. Military propaganda is always the fucking same. Ukraine fog of war. What's really happening from a couple days ago?
How's it going, Spare Parts Army? I'm your average infantryman, Chris Cappy. We're now 3 weeks into the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and at this point, I think we really need to talk about something that is wrecking our ability to see this war accurately. I'm talking, of course, about the dreaded fog of war. War fog smells terrible. A lot of people are in a state of confusion about what's happening in the war right now, thanks to echo chambers created by our social media platforms, and propaganda clearly coming from all of this. In the US, where I am, it's very difficult to factor in reports of Russian victories into my analysis. This is because either no one wants to find that information, or they're too afraid to share it, worried that they'll look pro-Russian. I want to warn you, if you want some cheerleading video about how great the Russian army is, or how great the Ukrainian army is, then this video is not for you. This is for people who want to cut through the fog of war and understand the reality in Ukraine.
Later in the video, we'll have an updated analysis of the 40-mile-long convoy, and we'll see if my initial assessment was correct or not.
This is what I've been saying, though, by the way. Like, I understand why people want to be all cheerleader, like, yeah, Ukraine's winning, etc., etc. And I didn't do it as much earlier today. We don't know what's actually happening. We don't know who's actually winning. Like, the Crimean front has been advancing, etc., etc. There is a fog of war. We don't know what's really going on. Just a note to preempt your triggering. He's going to absolutely butcher every single name you hear of a Ukrainian city. Okay. I know your pain, yeah. I haven't seen this video yet, but he has 3 or 4 other videos so far about this where he basically says all of those things. Yeah. Sounds like a reasonable person.
So to be fair, a major reason why it's difficult for us to clearly see through the fog of war, to accurately see the Russian army's victories, is because Putin himself has made it punishable by up to 15 years in jail to speak negatively about the war in Russia. The other reason we're mainly seeing pro-Ukrainian information about the war is because on March 4th, US media companies decided to clamp down and shut down our access to Russian media outlets because they were deemed misinformation. Personally, I think we're smart enough to figure that out, to figure the truth out for ourselves, but maybe not. After all, I am the same guy that tried throwing a bucket of water on an electrical fire in Iraq. For instance, take a look at the Ukraine live conflict map that we've been using. It's important to note that this is populated entirely by pro-Ukrainian sources. That's what fills out all of the information in here. So even though this is accurate intelligence, the picture that we get inevitably is going to be skewed in one direction. I believe the consequence of this is that we might underestimate the Russian military. This conflict map does not directly account for any of the Russian military victories. It will show us the location of destroyed Russian tanks, but it will not show us the evidence of destroyed Ukrainian equipment. So what I was able to do was dig deeper and look at some weird Telegram channels where I was able to find the Russian perspective.
Can be used like an octopus to suffocate and pull apart my enemy's arguments.
Thanks for the follow, Sodiprem. How are you doing? He's a fellow Long Islander. He grew up only about 20 minutes away from me. Nice.
And evidence of some of their victories. That's right, I get put on all the FBI lists so you don't have to. In my research, I located evidence of Russian military successes that I think were missing from the legacy media's analysis of the war. In the south of Ukraine, here we see an entire Ukrainian base, abandoned, with all of the armored tanks and vehicles left near the city of Kherson. On March 15th, there was abandoned and destroyed Ukrainian tanks on the highway right outside of the city.
But if you're anything like me and you get your news from TV and Twitter, this is probably shocking to you. We have reports of Russian special forces running patrols throughout this city, moving 500 kilometers north to the Chernihiv region.
There's footage from Russian drone strikes, destroying Ukrainian artillery positions. These are all scenes that I think people in the United States, like me, never have access to in our closed-off bubbles of social media. In the Donbass.
So I just want to respond to him saying this should seem surprising to you. It's not surprising to me. Even though we've only followed live UA map, we've seen day after day the advance of the Russian army on the Crimean front. We've seen it. Even just following live UA map, you see that the artillery strikes are further and further. Like, even without seeing this image, we know what it means. It means that the Ukrainian army got fought back, that they lost ground, that they lost bases, tanks, etc. Sure, but you're not the target audience, though, right? Yeah, but I'm supposed, you know, I need to react. Okay, let me do my react thing. Okay, red line go brr. Yeah, which is to be expected, to be entirely fair. Yeah. Now, the one thing we definitely did not see is, for example, like you said, now the drone strikes on Ukrainian artillery positions in around Chernihiv, stuff like that. Yeah, we don't see that, but we also can assume it's logical that that happens.
Region, there's photographic evidence that the Russian army has captured an untold number of US Javelin anti-tank missile systems, which will now be used against us.
But looking at this live map, we would completely miss those reports because they don't include pro-Russian information.
The Russian army doesn't have anything nearly as sophisticated or effective as the Javelin system in their own arsenal. They don't have any of the high-tech infrared lock-on, fire and forget top-down attack mode abilities.
Oh, thanks.
When Russian troops find them, they're already calling them trophy weapons. According to the Russian military, this Ukrainian armored tank column in Donbass region was destroyed by the Russian army using their grenade launchers on the tracks to disable them. I strongly believe that you deserve to hear the full story of what's happening on the ground.
Don't trust me yet? Maybe this footage of me surfing the web looking pensively at articles on my computer will change your mind. No? How about me reading printed out pieces of paper? Surely now I'm a trustworthy news source.
On March 4th, a civilian news broadcast from the airport near Hostomel shows that the Russian army has secured the airfield about 40 kilometers from the center of the city.
Now if we move 500 kilometers down to the south of the country,
here we see how in the Donbass region, the Russians are handing over captured Ukrainian vehicles to pro-Russian forces to use. Look at all the Soviet flags flying on these vehicles. Can we stop pretending at this point that Putin isn't trying to put the old Soviet Union back together? Can we stop pretending that NATO expansion is bad? What if we didn't let Poland join NATO? Is it more likely that Russia would behave, or would they have just been looking to snatch that sweet, sweet land up? This morning, Russian sources released video footage of their artillery shelling operations near the capital. They also released a detailed map that they captured showing all of the Ukrainian army's defense locations surrounding the city. But I've chosen not to disclose that information. The point is the Russians have it.
Take a quick look at the map from last week compared to this week. The Russian forces have made progress along every axis of advance. They haven't been pushed back or repelled really anywhere yet.
To me,
yeah, that's what I've been saying. Like that's what I've been saying. When you follow live UA map, you have like some basic medium-term memory. You see that the Russians are advancing. Yeah. What I didn't see coming and shocked me was Ukraine still standing after 5 days. They tried to decapitate Ukraine in a couple days. You know, the airdrops in Hostomel airport. I think it's pretty obvious that strategy was to get like a beachhead and with the airport, and you expected them to kind of work. Yeah, I'm not surprised they didn't work, because it's you could say it's kind of obvious, right? Kyiv is really close to the Belarusian border. Ukraine knew it was going to happen, since most strongest military in Europe in theory. Yeah, so you missed. We read a really interesting article earlier today. I can link it to you if you want. Let me just open like. Oh no, I can't open closed tabs because I opened some like risky links earlier. What was it? War on the. Oh come on. War on the Rocks. Russia logistics. Oh yeah. I read this article. So this article is from November 23rd, 2021, before the it was before the war. So keep in mind it is what it is, but it's a very interesting take on the limitations of Russian logistics. And a lot of what this article is predicts as limitations for Russian logistics, we've seen turn out to be true in real time in Ukraine. So this is a very good analysis of the Russian capabilities. We'll skim through it. Yeah. Oh God. Saying Russia has any kind of logistics is being very kind. Well, no, Russia has logistics. So like this article that I just linked that I read earlier in the stream, you can also just watch the VOD if you want. You can watch the VOD and I read it in you can treat it as an audiobook. I read the whole article earlier in this VOD. But the article basically explains that Russian logistics are rail-based, which means that they're very strong in a defensive war, and they're very strong in a frontal war on the border. But they're extremely weak when you go past 90 miles away from the Russian border, because then the trains can't get there. They need logistical pauses in order to make the railways there's like a gauge problem between European railways and Russian railways. It's different gauges. There's all sorts of like specific issues. Obviously, bridges can easily be destroyed, etc., etc. All that stuff makes it really hard for Russian logistics to reach into enemy countries. But it makes it very strong when it comes to Russia being attacked. They are supply depot based, not necessarily train based. Airports work, safe roads work as well, but railways is ideal. Well, yeah, I'm exaggerating a bit. I'm simplifying the fucking like 10-page article, okay? Man, military propaganda is always the same. Like this shit literally looks like the army's marching and stuff. It's literally the same as like Nazi propaganda or like Soviet propaganda. It's military propaganda is always the fucking same. What was the name of that German the filmmaker, the Riefenstahl? Yeah, Riefenstahl. She's the one who came up with this style of filming, right? That existed long before the Nazis, man. No. I'm talking about the cinematography of filming armies like this. It literally was created by Riefenstahl during world in Nazi Germany. It's like studied in like film class. It's the kind of shit. It's like the inspiration for a lot of the shots in Star Wars, for example, of the Imperial troops and like how they arrange them and all sorts of stuff. It's her cinematography that inspires that, and like she's been really influential. That's what I was thinking of.
These advances are more compelling intelligence than someone telling me on TV that the Russians have low morale in their units. Of course there's low morale in the Russian units. Have you ever heard a soldier talk before? All we do is complain. I think it's too hot. You know what? It's too cold. When are we going home? Where are we sleeping? Sleeping in the back of the vehicle sacks. If you're in the military and your morale isn't terrible, then you're either not in the infantry or you're not deployed. Believe me, they had to keep us from attacking each other in Iraq, let alone the enemy. On Thursday, March 10th, cloud cover over Ukraine broke, and it gave the Maxar satellite images another look at the 40-mile-long Russian army convoy just north of Kiev. Everyone was fixated on the fact that these vehicles had redeployed and moved under tree cover, and they completely missed the really valuable information here. Sometimes we can get more information by analyzing what we don't see. So these new images do not show us burning Russian vehicles. We do not see smoking, smoldering, destroyed Russian convoy. It's instead moved off the road into defensive positions under trees and into nearby towns. This tells us that the Ukrainian military either chose not to attack it, or they were unable to attack this big, fat, sitting duck.
The media is already starting to admit that this isn't a stalled convoy. Just look here at where the blue line ends, that's where the convoy ends. You can clearly see that this supply convoy can't go any further without advancing past where the combat divisions are.
U.S. intelligence officials from the Pentagon and the Department of Defense say that this convoy is largely made up of non-combat supply trucks. They're carrying fuel, food, and ammo.
Is it just me, or is John Kirby over at the Pentagon one handsome devil?
Some people see this 40-mile-long convoy as a massive military blunder, and in many ways, they're not wrong.
With the fog of war, the situation is constantly changing, and tomorrow, the whole convoy could get destroyed for all we know.
The Russian army, in their attempt to quickly take Kiev, has failed to successfully secure large regions in their rear. This means it could be difficult for this convoy to advance to the divisions that are battling into Kiev safely. If the convoy went further south, they would be at risk of being attacked by the Ukrainian special forces in that area. We know the most elite Ukrainian units are operating just north of Kiev and have been working to attack supply lines, which has helped to slow down the Russian advance. The Ukrainian General of Staff, whose reports have been largely accurate so far, if only a little bit biased, he had something to say about why the Russian convoy was pausing and taking defensive positions. He says the Russian engineer units are working to create a network of field pipelines in the territory that they currently occupy. The Russian military's plan, it appears to be that they want to connect these pipes to a central oil pipeline in Belarus, where they can pump fuel to any of their tank divisions near Kiev. In the meantime, Ukrainian farmers now find themselves in the front lines of this battle. Military intelligence reported on March 14th that Russian forces are seizing farming machinery for these engineering projects so they could help with this pipeline and help construct fortifications. In response, Ukraine farmers seem to be striking back by using their own tractor trailers to capture and tow Russian tanks away from them. This has now become a thing where Ukrainian tractors are pulling away tanks. There's dozens of these videos. I feel like there's a really great country music song opportunity here.
In Ukraine, I've got two things that I love. My dear tractor trailer and my captured Russian T-72 main battle tank. It's got a V12 diesel-powered engine. My girl, well, she ain't too sweet on my Russian armored vehicle sitting on the farm. Well, shucks. I tell her Vladimir Putin can come and get her himself. No, I'm not giving away my Russian tank. It's got a souped-up 780 horsepower engine. Yeehaw! Can I get a hoo?
During the third week of the invasion, the Russian forces have taken an operational pause, which was something that the U.S. military had to do in their invasion of Iraq. If we look at the east of Kiev, a Russian armored column last week made a push towards Brovary, which would put them in striking distance of the capital. If they can capture that town, they'll be one step closer to encircling the capital. The Ukrainian military likely had this road zoned in as a kill zone weeks ahead of time, and I'll tell you why I think that in a second. So they'd set up a complex ambush waiting for the Russian army just to roll right in. And we see the Ukrainians attack with artillery and possibly drone fire from the sky, maybe even tanks out of frame. The way this column reacts to contact is really terrible, because they bunch up close to each other, blocking one another, making it very difficult to retreat. So we can see this column was attacked once they had pushed into the town, out of all the farmland in the background there. This town then acts as a natural physical block, preventing the tanks from escaping the kill zone off to the side of the road. They're forced into this narrow zone of fire. This is a textbook procedure by the Ukrainian army for a successful ambush. It's been reported that the Russians lost a general in this attack, which is a really high-up officer, and it destroys their command and control. It hasn't been confirmed yet, though. Something interesting to note here is why are they doing this massive armored troop movement in broad daylight? It's likely because even the Russian armored vehicles lack sufficient night thermal imaging devices, and they believe that it's safer for them to travel in the day, which goes against everything that the US military doctrine follows. Moving in daylight makes them a huge target for Ukrainian artillery strikes. Hopefully the US is sending night vision goggles and thermal optics to Ukrainian soldiers, because this looks like a major weakness of the Russian
and I
army.
could be in
Another mistake made
pain
here is
and like breathing, like spitting my lungs out. Thanks for the follow, Slayer Darth. Welcome to the club.
that the Russians didn't follow basic combined operations doctrine, which requires good coordination and communication skills.
How are you doing?
Having air cover to counter the Ukrainian artillery would have been huge. They also didn't have artillery pieces set up to provide counter battery missions. Combined operations is kind of like rock, paper, scissors. You gotta have all the pieces or you're gonna get destroyed. Open source intelligence assets were able to intercept the Russian military's encrypted radio communications from this attack. And when it's translated, they tell us something very interesting about the average Russian soldier's psychological state.
Right. They weren't encrypted. What are you talking about? The fucking radio transmissions were unencrypted. And maybe they also intercepted encrypted transmissions, but the whole meme was they're communicating in the open. There were both. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
In the war that no one's really touched on yet. The translated conversation is as follows. Hello, Nitro, it's Udar, listening to you. What? 6th Regiment, can't report right now, still gathering info. A lot of losses. They waited for us. Ambushed commander of the regiment is killed. Checking about the other. As soon as you get the information, gather everything, report to me, understood? They strike with artillery, tanks, UAV. As to my understanding, Bayraktars. Checking on the other losses. This is the Russian soldiers reporting back to command with the status of their failed advance. The fact that they're so certain in their communications that it's a Bayraktar drone that targeted them is kind of fascinating to me, because it appears like they never saw one of those drones with their own eyes. And if they did see one, why weren't they able to attempt to shoot it down or target it? The Russian soldiers communicating here over the radio probably simply assumed it was a Bayraktar drone because there's been a lot of publicity around them, and they're a terrifying concept to the average soldier on the ground. Think about it. For your regular Russian soldier, the concept of being hit by some unseen drone is terrifying. It's similar to the psychological effect that improvised explosive devices had on me and other US troops in Iraq. Now, if we move slightly north of this location, there was another attack on this same column of Russian armor by Ukrainian armed forces. Here they used the British NLAW anti-tank missile system. It instantly explodes directly above the tank, knocking it out of commissions. This column's reaction to contact is completely different. They react in a much more organized and effective way by instantly identifying which side of the road the attack came from and returning fire in the correct direction. All of the tanks then got out of the kill zone, off the road, and they made themselves harder to hit, and they avoided any landmines that might have been placed in that kill zone. Most of the Russian infantry here, they made a big mistake though, by running away from the direction of the incoming fire. What they should have done is run directly to the closest cover, even if it meant the direction of the incoming fire. You never want to turn your back and run away from the incoming fire, because that makes you vulnerable. But on a whole, a much better performance by the Russian military here. 15 hours ago, today, on March 15th, there's been new ground attacks on the west side of Kiev. We can see over the past week, Russian forces have moved into this area because that's where the main supply route from the town of Lviv, near Poland, comes from. Once the Russians cut off this road, it will take an additional 4 hours to ship
Oh no, now that you told them they know, dang. They probably aren't watching this.
Looks like Google Maps has already started to reroute traffic away from that area where the Russians have moved into.
So Lviv, where this supply route heads to, was recently attacked on March 10th with 30 Russian cruise missiles that hit a military base there. The city is 25 kilometers from the border with Poland. The attack killed at least 35 people. Russia claims it killed 180 foreign mercenaries that are stationed there. It's been kind of like a staging area and coordination location for all of the aid efforts from NATO. It's also been where US and British citizens, for instance, with the people who have volunteered to fight against Russia, they've all gone there to link up before heading into the combat zones in eastern Ukraine. This attack appears to be a message to the US to tell them to stop sending supplies to Ukraine. Based on how the war has progressed in the last week, it appears like it'll take Russian forces another week to encircle the capital and another 2 weeks to assault. At this rate, unless something is done to stop them, we will likely see the fall of Kiev by the end of April. To the east in Kharkov, the second largest city in the country. Over the past few episodes, I've shown a lot of the Ukrainian armed forces' perspective of what's happening there. According to the Russians, they've captured a portion of the Territorial Defense Unit and the 81st Air Mobile Brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, which have withdrawn from the city at this point, according to them.
Kharkiv is important because if it's captured, it'll open up the possibility for the Russian military to encircle all of the Ukrainian forces in the Donbas region. Another important development coming out of Kharkiv is that the Russian military has provided video evidence that they've set up successful refueling operations in the area.
On March 10th, the Russian government officials admitted something that confirmed an early suspicion.
Kharkov, yeah.
They are using untrained young conscripts in the war who likely do not want to be there and were forced against their will to fight in Ukraine. There are a few theories surrounding the use of conscripts. Some claim that they're purposely sent in first as cannon fodder. Even one Ukrainian who was interviewed
said, quote, "At first they seemed to be sending in people they weren't afraid of losing. But then I was hiding in a basement. The Russians who found us were serious, well-equipped with torches and full communication, basically special forces."
So it could be the case that the professionals wanted the conscripts to go in like guinea pigs to test the level of Ukrainian resistance.
There's a point being made for the ice to be melting, which means Russia's on the clock. Yeah, so the one of the main arguments for that is that I've read that theory too, Soli Prem. The idea being that the reason why the northern and northeastern, the northern and northeastern fronts have been advancing slower is because of what people call the mud season, like like basically just muddy terrain all across the Ukraine because of melted snow, melted ice. And that the reason that the south has been so effective, the southern offensive has been so effective, is because the coastal geography and climate are much better for the Russian vehicles. But yeah, back to the video.
Communication. because there would be no real military advantage to sending in less trained troops first.
Can you comment on, or do you have any insights on the recent developments regarding Russia's use of conscripted troops? Can you confirm that they've recalled some of these forces and that their deployment to the front lines was
in the
seemingly the
south,
result of some kind of mistake?
Well, I mean, we certainly have seen that that some of the initial battalion tactical groups that were sent into Ukraine in the early days had conscripts in the force.
Can John Kirby get an unironic hua from us? Sir, if you're watching this, I'm not even kidding. I love the way you answer questions.
On March 9th, we got more evidence that contradicts Putin's claims that the invasion is going according to plan. This new evidence suggests that he's had a major initial miscalculation with the invasion, and he expected a swift victory in a few days, because he reportedly placed the leader of the SFB, their own head of intelligence, under house arrest for giving him false information about the situation in Ukraine, which led to an initial stumble by the Russian army there.
Now is he simping for that dude? I don't know.
Bureaucrats who told him what he wanted to hear and not what he needed to hear.
In this tense exchange with his inner circle, you can see Putin belittling his own team, telling them to speak plainly, demanding that they not mince words, which makes us suspect that maybe things aren't going well.
Hopefully, that piece of information helps explain why I want to show you the truth about the war. I want to show you the Russian victories as well as the Ukrainian ones.
Yeah, I saw the pre-written article about victory.
Making flawed decisions based on
Kirby is well loved by military people. Okay. Yeah, it was a week ago, right? A week ago or 2 weeks ago? God, I don't remember anymore. A Russian news site released an article celebrating the victory in Ukraine. It was obviously they like had it planned already and they forgot to unpublish it, but yeah.
Incorrect information. But there is a growing problem facing the Russians that they're going to have to start to account for. They've flattened these cities and killed much of the population that they're going to have to actually start to feed and give water to these people and help these people who are still left alive. The Russian Ministry of Defense has released footage of these soldiers handing out supplies to local populations. Footage like this it's kind of difficult for me to process because it reminds me of missions that I went on in Iraq where I would hand out food and water to the local population in towns that had been destroyed from years of war. I'm not saying that these conflicts are comparable, only pointing out that it kind of makes my stomach turn to see this kind of propaganda from the Russian media, and at the same time, know that I've been in similar operations firsthand myself. In order to catch more of a glimpse behind the Iron Curtain, the Russian Ministry of Defense, they released this footage of the Su-25 fixed-wing fighter jet, which took damage from an incoming Ukrainian surface-to-air man-pad missile system, but it was still able to hobble back to base. This tells us that the war for the air superiority continues to wage over Ukraine, which is good news for the Ukrainian armed forces. There's plenty of evidence out there to support the claim that Russia is in way over their heads. For instance, the US Department of Defense says that Russia is asking China for military and financial aid for the Ukrainian war. Both China and Russia denied this on March 13th. At the same time, China's left the door open for sending aid by stating that China will not promise and cannot be made to not export arms to Russia. The fact that there's no reason to believe the 40-mile-long convoy has started to distribute any of its supplies to the Russian division south of them is not a good sign for them. The rate of airplanes and tanks that we know have been destroyed is not good news for Russia. The fact that they've been unable to launch attacks larger than a regimental advance near Kiev suggests that they're uncoordinated between branches, and they lack clear communication to headquarters. The point of this video was not to dampen our hope of the Ukrainian armed forces repelling the attack. I simply want to give a more balanced picture of the war, especially as we appear to be getting closer and closer to joining it. There is a massively popular video with 21 million views on YouTube by this well-spoken, very smart professor who lays out an incredibly convincing argument about why NATO is at fault for the entire situation in Ukraine. He makes the assumption in this argument that if NATO hadn't expanded, then Russia wouldn't have expanded either. I believe if NATO didn't expand east, then Russia would have taken over Latvia and the Baltic states already, and that's not what those people want.
You might notice that he also very quickly hand waves how Putin's a dictator and says, well, democracy is terrible too.
It's easy to say democracy is terrible and no one should have the right to join NATO when you have freedom yourself. So this isn't a pro-Russia propaganda video, it's me saying that we need to know where the Russian military is having success in order to avoid being surprised by them. Because if we don't, then we will underestimate them and be less likely to understand how important it is that NATO continues to send fuel, ammo, and weapons. To me,
real talk. How many wheel drive is this?
In order to avoid being surprised by them.
Look, those wheels are turning as well. Wait, no, wheel drive means, oh no, it's where the, never mind. It's where the engine is connected.
Because if we don't, then we will underestimate them and be less likely to understand how important it is that NATO continues to send fuel, ammo, and weapons. To me, it's a little bit disappointing that we've chosen to shut down those Russian sites so that we can't get insight into what they're thinking. I understand the argument, but it just seems like a step closer to war because...
Dan, I feel his frustration. Like, a week and a half ago, I was trying to watch a Lavrov speech on stream, and it was linked to me in Russia Today in an RT video. That I couldn't watch. Or the RT YouTube channel is censored here in France. I was like, I wasn't gonna watch it to spread Russian propaganda. I wanted to analyze. He's the fucking Minister of Foreign Affairs. I want to know what he has to say. I don't think that's a bad thing, to be honest. I don't. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's kind of fucked up. For me, it's fucked up. Like, I'm not gonna succumb to Russian propaganda because I watched an RT video. me personally. I need to be able to analyze for my stream, like what Lavrov says. He's the fucking Minister of Foreign Affairs. Literally every single thing that they say is completely detached from reality. I don't know. No, but tons of people do. Well, a lot of lefties fell for it, though. Yeah, I know. Yeah, a lot of lefties, not just lefties. You shouldn't say it's just lefties. Like, a lot of people fell for it. It's one of those horseshoe theory things. There's a bunch of lefties who fell for it, and there's a bunch of, like, MAGAs who fell for it, which is really fucking weird. A ton of RT content has been removed from YouTube proper recently as well, not just EU now. Like shows by Abby Martin, who's an American investigative journalist, anti-war activist. Okay. I don't think those lefties are actually left-leaning, to be honest. You know, I had that thought. Are you aware of Haz on Twitch? There's this streamer who's ultra pro-Russian on Twitch, called Haz. And I was watching... Oh, did he get banned? Did he get banned? Oh, no, it's Infrared Haz. No, never mind. Infrared Haz. Or Infrared Show. Oh, yeah, there it is. Here we go, boys. He's ultra pro-Russia. Like he look at this. Vladimir Putin is good. Like he unironically thinks Vladimir Putin is good. I watched a bit of his debate with Destiny and Dylan. This guy is fucking. He's supposedly like a communist, like a hardcore lefty, and all I hear him do is posture really hardcore, like incel masculinist talking points. It's crazy to me. It's crazy to me that you call yourself a lefty. You're like so anti-progressive. I couldn't watch all that debate. It was literally deranged. It was, as far as entertainment goes, it was amazing. As far as an actual intellectual discussion goes, it's one of the worst things I've ever seen. If you like Russia or the USSR, you're not a communist. I would agree, yeah. You're a tanky. You're not a communist, yeah. Bro, 2 weeks ago you say sanction. Why now here have Renault, Peugeot plus Leroy Merlin? I don't know what you're saying, Bichitas. I'm sorry, but your sentences are incoherent. I saw Khan saying it was basically performance art. I would agree. Yeah, I wanted to watch it on stream, honestly. Yeah, that's the horseshoe theory, Corpio. The further left you go, the further right you go, people meet up and like are closer to each other. Yeah, has Destiny debate. I wanted to watch it on stream at some point because it's so fucking. I think that's about self-identification more than left-right. To a certain extent, yeah.
Well, you're just talking like a Mongoloid.
I don't give a fuck. I am a Mongoloid. In my heart, I'm a Mongoloid. That is what I am.
He fucking yells all the time.
We are Horde. That is what we are. Yes, we are that. We are 100% that.
That's not something to be proud of.
It is something to be proud of, bitch, because the Mongols are the ones who created civilization. And you created nothing but barbarism. You're the fucking barbarians. You destroyed the treasures of mankind and civilizations. The Mongols only united it. You fucking bitch. You cans cuck bitch. What the fuck do you know about civilization? What the fuck do you know about pride? What the fuck do you have to be proud of? Except looting, genociding, and destroying the cultures and peoples and wealth of this world. What the fuck do you know, cans cuck?
Cans cuck.
I am chipping out, bitch, because I'm a fucking human being, and you're a little soy boy cuck, little bitch.
This is, dude. Haz is literally he's like the tanky version of Alex Jones. He's actually the tanky version of Alex Jones.
You think I'm a nice leftist guy? You think I'm just some nice leftist guy? No, bitch, I'll eat you for breakfast. You don't know who the fuck I am.
No, I see you. I think you're a Mongoloid. That's what you
I am a Mongoloid. You're right. It is what I am, and I'm proud of being that.
Well, it's an anthropological term. It doesn't actually mean Mongol.
So what's your fucking point? You ugly, disgusting, fucking.
Okay, whatever. This is just fucking cringe. It's the epitome of insufferable. I can't help but laugh at it. The Mongols didn't genocide or loot or rape. To be fair, everyone's focused on Genghis Khan. Kublai Khan was one of the most enlightened leaders of his time. Like there's not just Genghis Khan when we're talking about the Mongols. And everyone shits on Genghis Khan, but everyone also forgets about my bro Kublai Khan. Like Kublai Khan pushed education and the arts and technology, society in the Mongol Empire so far. I was in DGG the other day, and he was yelling at DGG, calling us a bunch of little bitches, and said this is the downfall of DGG and was the beginning of IGG. Okay. Attila, builder of civilizations. Also, Mongoloid is a slur for someone with Down syndrome in some languages. Yes, it is. But it's a slur that comes from, like, the etymology is the Mongol people. Well, Kublai Khan isn't the one who united half the world, so I'm sure Haz meant Genghis. That's true, yeah, I know. I know like what Haz was saying. I was just saying it because people always forget about my bro Kublai Khan, man. Like I wanna give him respect. I always thought it came from the shape of the eyes. I'm pretty sure it comes from like Mongol racism. I could be wrong. I can't stop laughing / crying about this video. It just so perfectly sums up the leadership in this country. Completely clueless about everything. Just a walking talking point with the depth of a puddle. Freedom isn't free. What?
And do you support a no-fly zone in Ukraine?
I support everything that has to do with punishing Vladimir Putin and helping the Ukrainians.
Wouldn't that mean direct conventional warfare with Russia?
I don't know what it will mean, but you know, freedom is not free.
So you don't know what a no-fly zone will mean. If you have to shoot down Russian planes, I mean.
Of course.
So conventional war with Russia.
Listen, thank you.
Yeah, we get it. Like people don't understand what no-fly zone means. It's dumb. It's just like some random street mic. That doesn't matter. If Kublai Khan was so great, how come no German band ever made a meme song about him? Kublai overrated, Chinese simp. I think it was just some random person on the street getting interviewed. It's amazing how many people still don't know what the no-fly zone is, lol. I know! It's so weird. Do you know that Genghis Khan was not a Muslim? Yeah, I know. The Islam didn't exist. I'm pretty sure Islam didn't even exist. If I don't, yeah, it was pre the foundation of Islam. It's not even possible for him to be a Muslim, even if he wanted to be a Muslim. Wait, let me double check. Genghis Khan. Oh, wait, no. I guess Islam did exist, or was being born at the same time, right? The birth of Islam was when exactly? 7th century. Never mind, I was wrong. I thought Genghis Khan was way earlier. I was completely wrong. My bad. Yeah, Islam existed for hundreds of years before Genghis Khan was born, yeah. Have you watched any of the videos for from the 1420 Chan on YouTube? No, I don't think so. But yeah, Mongolia definitely wasn't Muslim then. That is true. Islam is 700 AD. Yeah, I thought I reversed the timelines. I thought the Genghis Khan was like around 700 AD, and I thought Islam was like 1200. Anyways, has Destiny, Dylan. I appreciate you not using Chrome. I appreciate myself not using Chrome as well. Putin is noob. He could have attacked the Middle East to avoid sanctions. Well, sadly, that is true, yeah. But that wouldn't have accomplished his objectives in Ukraine. Next step is to get you on Quant rather than Google search. Then we get you on Linux. No, you're never getting me on Linux. No, Soliprem. I am a software developer. Linux is great for like software development and shit, but you're never gonna convince me of you're never gonna convince me of want like the user experience in Linux. It's bullshit. The user experience in Linux is literally like fucking shoving nails under your into your fingers and then going to full circle to Apple. And ironically, Apple has like the best of both worlds. It's got the like Unix compliant OS and stuff, but it's also an actually good user experience.